So, Sean, it's a bit like Christmas. We've been waiting for the 26th of November for quite a while, and it arrived today with a sort of feeling that we'd already had the budget about 6 times over, with all the leaks and pre-briefs and Chancellor's announcements and all the rest of it. And then to upstage all of that, we had an amazing incident of the OBR's budget assessment report being published by the OBR 2 hours before the budget, and all the journos, including the BBC that I was watching, were sort of going through everything.
Yeah, it's astonishing, isn't it? Absolutely astonishing. She must have been livid, I would imagine, after all of this, I mean, I know they dribbled bits out, but the fact that they've then given the opposition the opportunity to prepare for the budget response in advance is just, I can't help but think that there's something politically motivated within the OPR has leaked this. I mean, we've spoken about mistakes over the last few months quite a lot, haven't we? But something as confidential as their report on the budget, wouldn't that have to go through 3 or 4 different locks to be able to get out into the public domain?
Well, maybe it's the YTS doing it. Those of a certain generation will get that reference. But maybe everyone's, it's sort of lunchtime, isn't it? Maybe everyone was out at lunch.
What happens if I press this button?
Whatever you do,
do not press.
Don't press this before 12:30. Yeah. But Mel Stride did make a very good point, though, didn't he? That
I don't know. I don't.
Everyone. Yeah, no. Well, he made a point before the speech. A point of order. I like a point of order, where he stood up and he said, "Madam Deputy Speaker, point of order, because this analysis has been published, before we hear the speech, shouldn't everyone be issued with a copy of the OBR's report?" To which Madam Deputy Speaker said, "No, it's not a point of order," and basically get on with it. Which is what Mrs. Reeves did. But it just was a sort of a fitting end to what has been leak upon leak. Well, it's actually a flood, isn't it? It's not a leak of the budget story, to the extent that, notwithstanding the OBR's leak, so many of the things that Mrs. Reeves announced were already known, weren't they?
Well, yeah.
So
we spoke about, we'll go through in a minute, but we spoke about most of these points last week, didn't we?
Yes.
And we weren't far off, really, with most of the announcements today. There was no particular surprises as far as
I think the only surprise to me was this idea that, having had the OBR leak, is that things weren't as bad as everyone thought.
No.
In that productivity at the sort of national level was okay, and that growth, as it happens, is doing better than people expected. Because
it was upgraded, wasn't it, by the office budget to 1.5%, which I think is quite motoring in today's day and age, isn't it?
By today's standards, it is. The dodgy figure, which was somehow hidden away, is that productivity can be increased at the aggregate level by simply having more people in the country. And that's exactly what's happened, because productivity per capita, per person, has reduced. So it's sort of a 50-50, really. But anyway, that's helped Mrs. Reeves. And that's one of the reasons she's ended up with this buffer of £22 billion now, instead of the £9 billion she had last year. So in other words, if things don't go quite as expected, in theory, she doesn't have to come back to year 3 for another round of tax increases.
No,
we shall see.
She's got a lot more room for manoeuvre, hasn't she, in that regard? Tell me, on a procedural level, before we go into looking at the actual points of the budget, why did we have Madam Deputy Speaker in the chair today? Where does Mr. Speaker? Where was he today?
I wondered that, but she did say she's the Ways and Means chair.
What does that mean?
Well, I thought, as an avid political watcher, you would tell me
Ways and
maybe he didn't have the ways or the means to to get to the thing.
It sounds like something from the Middle Ages, doesn't it? Where they have to weigh the speaker and work out whether she's got the means to be able to sit in the chair for long.
A bit like weights and measures.
That's right. Yeah. And if not, she's off to the ducking stool or what have you.
I think that's fair. I thought she was quite feisty.
Yeah, she was all right. Yeah, she was okay. She kept talking about people's voices carrying, which I thought was a bit repetitive. Oh, Mr. So-and-so, your voice carries right across the chamber. Mrs. So-and-so, your voice carries on. I thought, this is a bit boring.
I like the way that she's the only one allowed to call out their names, which is quite... You've got to know 600 people, haven't you?
Yeah. She must sit at home with her wall plastered with faces. A
bit like traitors, like a wall.
Yeah.
Or it can work the other way, can't it? It's a bit like the headmaster at school. If he knew who you were, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
So maybe she only calls out those she recognises, obviously. But shall we get into the nitty-gritty? Because I know you've done your research.
Yeah. We'll go into the nitty-gritty. I mean, income tax is the first one. I think we agreed that she wasn't going to touch the basic rate, but she has frozen personal allowances, as we suspected that she would do, up to 2031.
Yeah, the tax year ended 31, which is another 3 years.
Yeah. So that's as expected, and I think we predicted this in our Mystic Meg session last week.
I think we did.
There's argument that this is a sleight of hand in terms of stealth taxes.
It is.
Well, you can argue that. I mean, she didn't, in her response, Kemi Badenoch really didn't have a leg to stand on there because they've obviously brought this freeze.
Yeah, Tories introduced
into place, so they've used it themselves. So that's that one. Benefits, of course, the big finale, really, wasn't it? Although she didn't keep it right to the end, which I thought she was going to. The lifting of the two-child cap from April next year, which will please the backbenchers. There was a lot of waving of order papers. Did you see the
I did see that. I heard it before I saw it because I wasn't watching the screen at that point. But yeah.
State pensions increasing by 4.8% under the triple lock.
Triple lock.
Very nicely, or we're doing very nicely, or we'll be doing very nicely when
we're not there yet.
We're not there yet. No, not quite. No. And benefits to rise by 3.8%. So again, it's going to be a 3.8% increase in benefit payments. It's going to be quite significant, bearing in mind that is where all this public money is going to at the moment, isn't it? This extra money they're spending on long-term health benefits.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a working person or you're working part-time and you're paying taxes, then you might say, well, hang on a minute, this isn't fair, because benefits of all kinds, including the state pension, so I'm not focusing on welfare benefits, and the two-child benefit cap being removed would obviously be part of that. They're being indexed to inflation, but the personal allowance isn't. So it does feel unfair that people earning money or receiving pensions that are taxed are having to forego some of their income at a time when those who are not working or working only part-time aren't.
Yeah.
So I think as this all sinks in and the politics goes wild, I think that would be a headline for me. In fact, that's how I would be trying to describe it if I was the Tories, to say, look, how can this be fair? Because what we mustn't get away from is the fact that when you do all the maths, this was a tax raising budget net of givebacks of 26 billion, which is a big figure.
I mean, I suppose it depends where you sit on the political spectrum, doesn't it? Because these people, most of these people who are on benefits are not on, I mean, they're not huge amounts that they're receiving. They're subsistence level. So to increase them, to keep them within subsistence level, most people would say, well, that's not too bad. It's not the same as somebody who's on a £50,000 a year salary. They're not earning that sort of money. So, unless you're going to let
that person on the 50,000 salary could have 2 or 3 kids, a mortgage, a car loan to be able to get to work. Can have their disposable income could be less.
They can have kids and a mortgage on benefits. doesn't mean it didn't make any difference. You could still have a mortgage.
Yeah, but
on
the point
benefits.
is, the £50,000, which tends to be the figure kicked around now, is this idea of this wealthy person. But if you're a family and you've got commitments, it's
in
not. You've probably got less disposable
income. You keep talking about a family.
Someone staying at home.
You can have a family on benefits. You don't need to be earning £50,000 a year to have a family. You've still got the same responsibilities in terms of keeping food on the table and paying heating. So this idea that you're a family on 50,000, so you must be protected. What about a family on £15,000 a year? They must be protected as well.
I'm not saying they should be protected, but what I'm saying is the family on 50,000 hasn't got all this disposable income to
lot more than those on benefits has.
Well, no, not after their commitments. Not after. No.
Oh yeah.
Your reference points are too old. I keep telling you about this.
No. I've sat in front of these people. I know how much they're earning and what.
If you sat in front of.
I've worked in the job centre for about 12 years, so I know people on benefits and what they're earning and what they're getting.
But I know people.
Their family. Yeah, but I know.
I know families trying to run households.
I know, but your families are in the upper echelons. They're board members. You wouldn't know what. How much is the basic universal credit per week then?
I'm going to say, well, it depends on the circumstances, doesn't it? It depends what for.
Yeah.
How can you possibly...
Anyway, moving on, because otherwise we could be here all for the whole of this particular.
Well, you don't bring your politics in.
And you're not. Property tax, because that's a less contentious issue, isn't it? As we said, an annual council tax surcharge of properties over £2 million in value. I think she said for £2 million property, it'd be about an extra £2,500 a year.
Yeah, but not immediately.
Rising to 7.5 if the property were worth £5 million, I think she said, didn't she?
Yeah.
Which, I mean, you'll be surprised to hear me say this, and I think we've said this before, that we thought it would have been better had she put all of this on an income tax increase last year. But I think they're going to have problems with this, because I think you're still going to find a lot of elderly people, retired people who've got properties that are way up there, who haven't got the income to be able to make these payments on an annual basis, which presumably is what they're looking at. Now, there's a suggestion that they'll take a charge over the property and take money as...
Defer it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I don't think, I think this is a bit of a, I'm not all that keen in that sense.
Yeah, it can. The risk is probably not the 5 million ones, because I think you're into super wealth then, but you can have stumbled in, trying to think, I don't know anyone who owns £2 million property, but or at least not that they've said so, but I think you can stumble into that level of property, and at the aggregate level, does it distort the property market? Does it prevent things happening? Do people not buy upwards, and therefore there's a sort of a break on the property market, which is the problem with these taxes, which are linked to values of homes?
I don't think if you've got 5 million to spare, it's to buy a property that's going to put you off buying because you have to pay. I think this could work if they were to link it somehow to income as well, so that if you had, little old granny who's living in a property that's worth 4 million, but she's only got 20,000 coming in a year, then there has to be some sort of way whereby she's not liable for that full amount. But if you've got somebody who's working in the city who has an annual salary of 2.5 million and they've got a property worth 5 million, then they should pay the whole whack. But it makes it interminably complicated to work that out. And I'm not quite sure how it's going to pan out. I suppose we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, and it's a bit like the farmers' tax last year. It only raises 400 million. So you think, oh, really? Was it worth it? But yeah.
So yeah, we should wait and see on that. In this particular segment, electric vehicles, we covered that last week. 3p a mile on fully electric vehicles, and 1.5p a mile on hybrids, I believe.
Plug-in hybrids. Yeah.
And I think
the other type.
I think we both agreed that was probably.
Yeah, I agree with it. on the principle as a road user and declare an interest. I don't have an electric car, so I guess I haven't got that angst. But I do have a degree of sympathy for those people who've bought their cars on the assumption that that subsidy existed, and to do their bit for the environment, because electric cars are more expensive anyway, as we discussed in separate articles. I think there's a very practical thing here, which I heard on a phone in this morning, is that how are you going to do it? Because new electric cars, and a lot of them are new, don't need an MOT for 3 years. So there's not going to be a record of what miles you're doing.
Well, I guess you're probably going to have to do a return, aren't you, on your mileage
possibly
every year? That might be the way forward. Like you do a tax return, you have to put in some sort of figure into.
Yeah, but who's going to know? What I'm saying is, if you get rid of the car, say you've got it on a 3-year PCP deal, and you chop it in at year 3, and it's gone. Are they really going to sort of tally up the mileage and send it off somewhere and all the rest of it for 3p a mile?
Well,
so it might be one of those bright ideas that is unworkable.
Yeah. Anyway, I think we've covered about half the points that were brought up in the budget, and we're going to cover the other half on another pod. So you'll have to come across and see us on our part 2 of this particular exercise, which no doubt you'll be able to find online.